It's been 2,000 years since.
I can imagine that's true for the very sort of fundamentalist religious, but I think there's a huge amount that's about money and having, money for American political campaigns from Jewish.
So are you happy to appear? I think you indicated.
I just don't feel very articulate on these.
No, you're very
nice.
You made some very.
I have to say, I agree with this point. I don't think that the polloi, the ordinary people who support the kind of end times extremism that you find in kind of red states in America in the backwaters are really the political motive. They are not not yet. They could be. We have, fundamentalism growing in the USA in a way that is frankly terrifying. But no, I think that, look at how appalling Biden has been on this issue.
Yeah.
Look how appalling the Democrats are. How unable they are to really take the moral authority to stand up and say, this is horrific, this is genocide. When you look at Ilan Pappé, a Tel Aviv Jewish new historian, turn around and say, this is genocide, and get totally ostracized, it just shows that America do not have the guts to recognize this atrocity.
I think what we must all be aware of is that, particularly in the deep south of the US, landowners in particular, they are very much akin to this understanding of eschatological matters. Eschatology is a study of future events to occur.
Yes.
And because they fundamentally believe that the Jews have to be in Zion in order to perpetuate the return of Christ, hence they support Israel's actions unequivocally.
Yes, I'm sure that is the case. I think for me one of the most important distinctions is making the distinction between this being a religious issue of any kind versus a Zionist takeover and an imperialist apartheid issue. That is what Israel are doing through this war, and it's really nothing to do with Jewishness or religion of any kind.
That's correct. You're saying as much, actually, by drawing our attention to the kind of right-wing support. And actually, one has to remember that Zionism started as a Christian project.
Yes.
I forget the commander who was in charge of the mandate. He was called the Crusader, and that, it shows you that this Zionist movement is not essentially, of course it is now a Jewish movement, but began as a Christian movement. And actually I think Americans and most liberal people who are deluded into thinking, or are turning a blind eye, are doing it out of a profound sense of guilt and an inability to kind of deal with anti-Semitism, or the fact that we have a European Union who is saying that you could define anti-Semitism as a criticism of Israel. It's just so insane. It's like you're trying to, what a muzzle to ordinary people saying the political positions of this state are absolutely unacceptable, and we cannot have this. It's just the killing of children and the whole Israeli propaganda machine. I'm ranting, but
no, you're not ranting. You're making cohesive sense. I've been a great proponent of critiquing Michael Gove for a number of years due to certain factors, which I don't you won't.
Almost any factor, really.
But perhaps you won't agree with some of my surmisations. However, this is, in my view, the most influential British politician with Maggie Thatcher since the end of the Second World War, Michael Gove.
What? And this was more influential than Tony Blair?
Yes, I think so.
I think that's I don't think that's a serious position.
Oh yeah, so since the various positions he's held in the David Cameron government in 2005.
Oh yes.
For being the Education Secretary, where he introduced compulsory education for young children at a state school, where they had to learn about the intricate details of what all those aspects involved. And it's no interest that Cameron appointed Gove, and 2 days before Suella Braverman was sacked. Did you know Michael Gove was seen doing the rounds in Victoria, just not too far from the station? Within 48 hours, Suella Braverman is sacked. So I did find that telling, and then we know who Michael Gove, who has got various distinctions with ministerial roles that he's given. One is referred to as an intergovernmental minister, the other is referred to as various aspects he's got, various roles he plays. But he's the most influential. There's recent articles which have propagated this. I can show you references in regards to that. And then we know he was the individual who proposed to Rishi Sunak to get David Cameron 18 years later to become Foreign Secretary on the behest of him and Douglas Smith, that very shadowy, esoteric figure. So, which not many people are even aware how he looks. Forget about. Are you aware of him, Douglas Smith? Have you seen him before? Have you seen his imagery before? Have you seen him? Yes. But if you try to search him on Google, he's like the Scarlet Pimpernel. Yes.
Sorry, but are you kind of skirting around to making a?
Yeah. So the fundamental point was, I am skirting around. You're right. So the fundamental point was that what we're seeing here, I think he's a major protagonist of this. The attempt to gag, the attempt to ostracize, the attempt to vilify, the attempt to put the wool over people's eyes about what is essentially happening.
The whole of the Tory project is.
Yes.
Sorry.
And everyone has been doing that, attempting to pull the wool over your eyes and ignore what's actually happening for the last 70
There's
years.
no political movement other than the one behind. I'm so sorry.
No, please go ahead.
And there's no political movement except, the left. Corbyn's left. The only political movement that's had any kind of serious engagement with any of these moral issues. I mean,
and even Mr. Corbyn, who I interviewed about a month ago in Finsbury Park area, even he's very reluctant now to come out to critique those who just say played their hand to get him out of the position of potentially being Prime Minister a number of years ago. But he was loath to critique those who did so. He was loath to do so.
Why do you think that was?
I think of endemic fear of how he would be ostracised again.
I don't think he. I just think he was very careful. He did. I mean, actually, I think he did. He followed the procedures involved, and he was lambasted. He was completely demonised.
Yes.
And it was. Initially came from Israel, didn't it? The criticisms of, I can't remember the official involved, the one who complained about him standing in a particular graveyard. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
When I interviewed him, like I said, a few weeks ago on this very channel, he was loath to speak out. I mean, I said to him basically that it's the Zionist movement who stopped you becoming Prime Minister, I believe firmly. And he was very, very quick to say, no, I don't want to speak.
Sure.
Because of the fear factor. We know the Zionists are such, machinators, shall we say, in the way they do their operations, that even I would say that his physical safety will come under threat. Because where they see that happening, and we look at, for example, the methodology that they use, anyone who stands out against them, they could be in for the high jump. And they do it in a very lethal manner. Even me speaking, I've spoken out often. Often people have told me that be very careful what you say. Even if you say nothing which would be deemed insightful, but they can perpetuate it to make it appear as such. So these are all fundamental that we all share, you see. Because if they can gag us in regards to the Palestinian movement, what next? What next? Freedom of, we're supposed to have freedom of expression. It's not. It doesn't even exist, really.
That's why we have to prevent these Tories. They're already cracking down on union laws. They're cracking down. They want to curtail our right to protest. You're absolutely right. It's definitely the thin end of the wedge. But it is, it's really important that we get a ceasefire as soon as possible, a sustained ceasefire. There needs to be international inquiries. There needs to be, we're lucky at the moment that we have the kind of social media from Palestine. We're actually seeing these things happen.
Yeah.
The terrible phosphorus burns, the appalling, not to say that, Hamas's success in terms of their own war crimes, initiated this whole thing. This is state terrorism on a scale that is just so sickening and so difficult to.
Yeah, I think the indigenous masses are feeling that, and that's with social media being to the fore. I think the general understanding is that this could well be the next issue, curtailing social media to a vast extent, which we often find to be the case. So, obviously the tragedy unfolding as us as human beings, essentially, it's unbearable.
It really
it's utterly unbearable in the 21st century, 2023, that this can still happen. And our governments are petrified of potentially upsetting those who are the perpetrators.
We are in danger of losing our humanity.
Yes.
That's what we really have to lose.
Absolutely.
Beyond everything else, if we don't stand up to this, what we lose from a spiritual point of view is incalculable. As a state, as individuals, it's just...
As people, totally.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your sentiments. You've been very kind. The name of the channel is called Sam
Is it on
Dawah.
here?
It's not on there, no. But it's if you remember Sam, or I'll make it easy. The good lady can remember Sam. Dawah, D-A-W-A-H.
Dawah.
Watch it. We'll have that up and ready.
Thank you
Delighted
very much,
speaking.
Shelley.
Thank you for your sentiments.